Okay, so we are here. Thank you. Welcome. I'm super, super, super excited for this conversation. We were very intentional about uh, planning this session way far from 8th March because we knew we will not get enough attention. While this was intended for Women's Day and a lot happens around that day, we said, let's do it in a different month because we don't need a particular day to celebrate women. And the whole idea of this conversation was let's go more deeper, see all the possibilities that we have enjoyed in our careers as part of coaches, women coaches. How can we expand that? How can we share that? And how can we learn from someone who have set examples? So I have my actually aspiration was to reach out to the world and say, hey, let's bring the world together. So I went to Australia, reached out to Harlina, and then went to Kylan. She was in New York, and then went to Elena, and she was in Mexico, and said, let's do this. Oh, obviously, practical reasons. It's midnight for Harlina, so she could not join live. But thankfully, three of us were able to make it. It's 6 a.m. in the morning for Elena right now. Thank you so much for making time, Elena. And yeah, super excited. We have some questions, and given that we are a small group right now, which is great in a way, we can have a lot of conversation. Put your questions on the chat, whatever comes to your mind. I have my set of questions and I can go through them. Harlina has very kindly shared her responses on text, and we'll display that as we go through the questions. Um, I'm sure there's a reason you are here. So keep thinking about it and share your perspective as well on chat while I host this conversation with Elena and Kylan. Let me introduce these wonderful ladies first. I mean, uh, super, super, super inspiring whenever I look up and say, okay, who are the women I get inspired by? And these are some names that come. So, Dr. Elena Espinel is a PhD, is a master certified coach by ICF, and has 33 years of experience in leadership development, training, coaching, facilitation, and team building services. She was born in Argentina, moved to Mexico in 1998, leaving behind the foundation of the first school of coaching, acknowledged by Secretary of Education and company Team Power Mexico. She has worked with people from different cultures, indigenous, and people of different social cultural backgrounds, and in more than 30 countries of all continents with individuals and organizations, governments, and NGOs. The last 10 years, she is a committed worker for establishing diversity and inclusion in companies and governments and has formed the first group of 54 blind coaches, creating an organization for generating work for them called Coaching for Vision. Con is uh, Elena, con is for, right? Coaching con vision,
Convision.
convision, which means
Coaching convision is coaching with a vision.
with a vision. Yeah, that was in Spanish, so I was trying to figure it out. So, because of her background in coaching, psychology, philosophy, she observed the client as a possibility, as well as his or her vision and goal. And this attitude generates trust, even when the client has to stretch between what is today and what is they wanted for the future. She's always searching to push her clients to more of what they see as possible for themselves. And she specializes in future designs and also has an expanded experience in social coaching. As an educator, she founded and manages a mastery in organizational human development with coaching training in University of London, Mexico. And Dr. Elena Espinal's background is based in biology and medicine. She has a degree in psychology, doctorate in dentistry, and mastery in pathology. She's acknowledged as an outstanding lecturer. She wrote the book Crafting the Future. In this book, she attempts to inspire the reader to make use of their power to build and design their life. She has been honored by ICF with the Circle of Distinction Award 2022, by the Argentina Association of Coaching as Master Coach, and as an honorific member by ICF Argentina. With an honorific acknowledgement for her contribution to the profession, she has included in the list of 50 thinkers influencing coaches around the world by Marshall Goldsmith. So a very warm welcome to Ellen. Thank you for making time for us.
Thank you, Jaya.
I'll now introduce Kylan. Kylan Romani is an organizational psychologist, executive coach, and former corporate executive who has been successfully leading business transformation for over 15 years at unicorn startups, Fortune 100 companies, nonprofits, and nation's largest city governments. Her expertise has transformed organizations such as Amazon, Walt Disney Company, the City of New York, and Zapier, amongst others. This global work has taken her to places like Chicago, Los Angeles, Accra, Ghana, Durban, South Africa. As a founder of Forward Collective Group, she prioritizes creativity, intimacy, and efficiency to drive results that propel her clients forward. Welcome, Kylie. Such an honor to host you.
Thank you so much. Hi to everyone.
Great. And I'm going to read about Harlina's introduction as well. And she's not here, but she's here in her spirits with us. Halina is an entrepreneur and co-founder of Believe in Yourself, firm which strives to partner with all on a journey of self-awareness and transformation. She is a multidisciplinary professional with 29 years of experience and expertise across gamut of business, sales, marketing, HR, technology, leadership, consulting, learning and organization development domains, operates at the intersection of talent, technology, and transformation. Had industry experience in manufacturing, retail, customer goods, IT, ITES, oil and gas, banking, etc. She's worked with organizations like Xerox, GE, IDFC Bank, Reliance Industries, worked as core team of RIL Chairman's Office. Helena has been a board member with Skillsoft, world's largest edtech e-learning company, ex-faculty with KPMG, UNMS3 in India, and on diversity and inclusion and HR advisory with SHRM. Ranks as India's top 12 HR influencer in India for last 12 years, is a TEDx speaker and faculty with B Schools. She's a board Future of Works Summit member, writes for Harvard Business Review, and is a speaker at several global forums like SHRM, ET, ATD. Columnist for Economic Times publication and newspaper, won several global awards in leadership innovation with latest from CEO Magazine on top 10 founders of the firm in leadership, and designed and runs several culture, confluence, coaching festivals, and HR events in India, Singapore, and Dubai. And that's her link for you. Great. So after the introductions, I think we are really getting up for the conversation that we want to hear your views on. And what I'll do is I'll pin these two windows so that we can have a conversation. And for all those who have just joined, it'll be great if you can keep putting your questions on chat while I'm asking some questions that I had in my mind to explore from this. And the whole idea of putting this panel together was to understand what's world thinking about this conversation, right? And the whole idea is when women are making so much of progress in coaching, and I think survey tells us that around 70% of coaches are women in industry, which is ICF data, which also tells us that there is something naturally and innately available in us, which makes us very, very apt for coaching as a career. So let's define that and articulate it and inspire more women to pick up this profession, because I think natural strengths can actually propel growth for everybody in the society. So I'm going to ask my questions to both of them, and we will also display Harlina's responses here on screen as we go along. So let me ask Elena, first of all, what unique advantages do you see women bring to coaching profession in terms of fostering innovation, leadership, and inclusivity?
Well, I think that educated women bring more than diplomas. They bring a different way of seeing. Their academic journey is interwoven with a historical sensitivity to what has been denied or minimized. That gives them the ability to observe systems with a critical eye and propose alternatives that don't replicate power. They rather inspire others to be powerful. They are creators of new conversations, catalysts of profound change, and weavers of more inclusive networks. Their innovation is not always technological. Often it is relational, human, transformative, and that in coaching is pure gold.
I like the point around, not really chasing power. But it doesn't mean they can't hold power, but then they have the ability to give power to others, which is something which is so much helpful in a coaching relationship. Right. Kyle, what do you
Yeah.
think about this? Sorry, Elena, you had something to say.
No. I was going to tell you that I think that power, it's absolutely related with freedom.
Hmm.
It's the ability of really choosing in life. So you can give the space, inspire others, but you can take out the power of others. And we don't know that. And I think a lot of women are ready now to say, be free, really choose what you want. It's your life, it's your unique life.
Interesting. So isn't it like a logical equation that if you give power to others, you have to lose power? Is that not the case?
No, absolutely not.
Can you talk about a personal example that tells that?
Well, power is not a thing. Power is a way of being in life, a way of being in relationships where you are absolutely responsible of what you're creating and for the way you choose.
Hmm.
If you remember one of the greatest leaders in South Africa, when he went to prison, he told his prisoner, I am not going here because you decided it. It's because I decide this to use it and show the other ones that we can be free.
Hmm.
So you are also the owner of your own interpretations. And when you can relate to circumstances, you choose the way you relate to circumstances, that's a choice that we always have. We cannot choose the circumstance, but we can always choose the way we relate to the circumstance.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
We can create our own life, and we can create what we want to create in life.
Interesting. I never thought power can be freedom. It can be looked at like a freedom, which is very liberating, honestly. Interesting. Kylan, how do you respond to this question about women and coaching profession?
Absolutely. So, first of all, hey to everyone. It might be good morning, it could be good afternoon, it could be good evening. It's interesting because women's role in coaching often reflects the fact that we are the object of systems and not the subject. So many times systems are not made for us, they are made at us, and we tend to be simply operants in systems. And what coaching does is it gives us a chance to not only take ownership over our own lives and the systems in which we have to live, but then we're able to share that experience with others and empower them to be thoughtful about how they move in systems. And it's so interesting because coaching is, of course, both an art and a science. And so, with women being in coaching, I see so much of how we're able to show up and really elevate the art of coaching. And I'm grateful for the experiences that I've had in my own coaching life. Of course, Jaya, you're a part of that story. And to learn the science. But whenever people ask, like, oh, well, how did you get into coaching? I tell them coaching was always a part of my life. I remember, unfortunately, I was a parentified child. So I remember having to coach my parents. And then I was coaching my friends in school about boyfriends and all of that good stuff. And then coaching folks in college about which classes to pick. So it evolved into something that became a paid career. But if we're honest, most women are, again, practicing the art of coaching throughout their lives, just unfortunately as unpaid labor.
So it seems that we naturally bring something that makes
Sure.
us natural guide to others, if I may call it. And then we
Yes. And I love that word guide. I'm sorry, that word guide stands out to me because if I'm the guide, yes, I'm there to lead the conversation and the journey, not necessarily you. So as a guide, I recognize the map. I see, hey, you know what? If there are wolves on this trail, we could go here, we could go here. I'm going to make sure we have, snacks and supplies and a first aid kit, but I can't take the journey for you. I'm simply here to be present with you on the journey. And a lot of women can empathize with that as well because we tend to be partners for those around us, whether in our family, our friend groups, and even in work settings.
and I'll have these questions here, but I'm getting very curious to see that I think we at times overdo that too, right? That's the boundary that coaching teaches us to say, hey, I know you're good at it, but doesn't mean just you overdo and overstep on your role of being a nurturer. So that's also a understanding that we are having. But as far as the coaching profession is concerned, and as the world is changing, what are some of the opportunities that are opening up for educated women? Because it seems that some of the topics are very well handled by women than others. So, what's your view on that? Meanwhile, I'll bring what Harlina has to say about the first question. Srishti, can we share the screen? So, meanwhile, yeah. So, Harlina says that it's their own self. Exactly what both of you also said. Their life experiences, their expertise, and stories of having been a leader, because everybody needs a role model, and mostly our mothers or some female figure in our lives show us that role model. They are that role model, or even a teacher at times who can tell us that this is the possibility for us, either as a woman or as a role model, irrespective of gender. Thank you, Srishti. So I'm going back to my question around what are the opportunities that open up for women in this complicated world. You can stop sharing. Hmm. Because I'm what I'm understanding about how the world is evolving is it's becoming more complicated, more divided, and there are several topics where women can actually provide a support. What are those? What are those corners that we can look at? Elena, to start with you.
Okay, I think that coaching doesn't impose, it reveals. And when an educated woman sits in front of someone with full presence, courageous, compassion, sharp listening, she opens cracks in structures that once seemed immovable. She doesn't need to shout to disrupt the system. The powerful question asked at the right moment is more than enough. Coaching is an elegant trench. It doesn't throw stones, it plants seeds.
Interesting. So it seems that innately we are more natural than hunters. So, so which automatically makes us put the seeds,
Mhm.
and that a lot can grow there. What do you think about this, Kylan?
You know, it's interesting. For me, education represents three things: openness, information, and access. So I am currently finishing my doctoral degree. Obviously, Dr. Elena is highly educated. Jai, I know you are highly educated as well, and as is Harlena. And as I sit in rooms and classes and study and engage with the world, the level of openness that I'm able to experience is due in large part to the fact that I sit in classrooms with people from all over the world, that I've had the privilege of having access to world-class education, professors who are at the top of their field, who have been exposed to different cultures, that I'm able to learn information from a range of thinkers across the history of time. I'm studying for my PhD in organizational psychology, and I'm reading theories of people who wrote at this top of the Industrial Revolution, which is repeating some of the same things that we're seeing in the workplace today. And so when I live in the United States. I live in Atlanta currently, but interestingly enough, I am in Sao Paulo, Brazil right now on business. And when I see these conversations and some of the same issues that are happening worldwide in workplaces and communities among entrepreneurs, access to education and openness to education will solve so much of the problem. There is such a large and growing pushback against education, which is so fascinating to me. But anti intellectualism is undermining so much of the progress that, in particular, women have been able to make. I would not be sitting in Sao Paulo, Brazil, if I did not go to college. I would not be sitting even in Atlanta, right? Because I'm from Detroit, Michigan. I'm a native Detroiter. Education has opened all of these doors to me. I am able to make good business decisions in my coaching practice, in my consulting practice, because of my education. I am able to have access to alumni networks because of my education. And so I tell all women, because I coach a lot of women and I've now started mentoring younger women, the main thing that I ask is, have you gone to school? And if they say, oh, yeah, I went to school, when are you going back? Do you have a master's degree? Are you going for continuing education? Do you have a certification? Because that is the difference maker. Again, not just to stack alphabet soup or have a bunch of pieces of paper behind you. School has always been the doorway and gateway to the world. It's either school or business. And we're at a point now in history where, to be quite honest, it would be helpful for you in running a business if you had education. So it still points back to education over and over again. And so I could talk forever for this. So I'm gonna wrap it up so that I'm not speaking too long. But for me, educated women are making the difference in the world, because without it, I mean, we're to the point where people can't even discern between facts and opinion. That alone, right, is like, you need to go to school, right? You need to learn critical thinking skills, analytical reasoning skills, diplomacy, tact, relationship building. All of these are things that you build in education and training experiences. And I cannot espouse it enough, especially for women, because you cannot afford to be isolated in bubbles. It just can't happen.
You know what? You're reminding me of a quotation that I read somewhere saying, you can only learn what you know. And that's what the point is, that when you already have that innately available in you, putting a structure to it and putting an education around it makes it more easy, or let's say becomes your strength. And that's what is getting established here, that you already have that nurturance, that those skills that you can channelize through a profession and make business decisions. It's just about how much are you believing in your own self.
And I want to make a second point with that because when you mentioned about learning what you know, I even want to pull it back even to a cognition standpoint. So, of course, there are seven elements of cognition. One of those elements is knowledge acquisition, right? So, I know how sharp your mind is by how you are able to acquire code and process knowledge. And school teaches you to do that. There are tons of statistics now that are showing that younger generations don't have the capacity to read full books, that they don't have the capacity to, process information, to sort through of informational validity. Like these are very important skills. And when we espouse and get excited about I was just having a conversation with someone about my use of AI in business, actually on the flight to Sao Paulo, and he has an AI startup, and I was telling him, AI is garbage in, garbage out. So the power of AI, even in business as an entrepreneur, is based on what I already knew. If I already understand a topic, or at least have some foundational critical thinking skills, analytical reasoning skills, reading comprehension skills, then I can use AI responsibly. But if I'm starting without all of those skills, I can't even use AI to its fullest potential because I won't be able to sort out, is this true? Does this make sense? And I can use it. I mean, I'm able to fly in my business and run a lean team and do all the things that AI is espoused as a benefit because I already came in knowing my field. I already came in being educated in my work. So I can look at something that AI writes and say, okay, thank you for spitting that out in 5 seconds, but that's wrong. I'm going to refine my prompt and now I'm going to get correct information. You still saved me time, but because I know my work, I know my field, and I'm educated, I'm not putting out wrong information just to be more efficient. Efficiency is only as good as it is effective. And so my fear is that as we push back against education, especially for women, we are sacrificing effectiveness as a human in the human experience, how we relate to others, connect to others for the sake of saying, well, I started a business or I was able to jump forward in my career, but to what end? Because that's not sustainable.
Interesting, interesting. And how is that unique to women, Elena? What do you think about that?
Can you repeat me the question?
How is that unique to women? Because I'm sure the interpretation of AI or any other subject is is very sharp in men as well. And what distinction women brings there, and how can that connect to coaching as a profession?
Well, I think that if we talk about I absolutely share with Karen what she said. I think that AI is based on the past. And what
Yes.
we create through coaching is future. We don't use coaching to solve problems. We use coaching to create a future responsibly, bigger than the reality or the present that you're living now. That's why it's so important to ask some questions that sometimes we diminish the power, especially when we ask, for example, why is this important for you? No, it's what is the future that you want to create with this decision? So you can create it from a place of responsibility. So you are aware that your decisions are creating not only your future, you're influencing in the future of others. So I think that when a woman empowers herself, she's not rising alone. She lifts others with her. And when that woman is a coach, the impact multiplies in a way that is exponential.
Hmm.
She doesn't, what we need to remember is that we don't transform only the conversations, we transform futures through conversations. So coaching becomes a web of support and expansion. It helps other women to see themselves, to dare, to take up space, to stop asking for permission. It's a wave that doesn't ask permission to arrive. And we don't need to go against anything. We need to go for what we want.
Hmm.
We are, well, as probably because we are mothers, or we have the possibility of being mothers. We have love, like, in our skin.
Hmm.
It's so easy to bring love for us. And love is the base of any relationship.
Hmm.
That's the bond.
That's the bond.
That's what creates trust, respect. So I think that's the difference that we can bring.
Hmm. Hmm. Very interesting. Great. So I'm going to ask my next question, which is how does the intersection of education, coaching, and coaching enable to build a resilient career that aligns with their values, such as work-life balance and ethical leadership? A lot of it is already covered, but let's put this together in a structured form. Kylan, you want to go for that? How does the intersection of education?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So and it's so interesting that I'm doing this from another country because I think it's illustrating in real time these concepts. If I remember, right, my career path that with every degree, first of all, the entire time I was in um, grad school, I've also worked full time. And I could see the jumps in my salary, sometimes 50% raises with every degree because of the jobs that became available to me, the capacity to relocate and have paid relocations, right? So when we talk about women and access to opportunity, sometimes it's that you need to be in a different city, a different region. That's expensive to move. And so as my education increased, I got access to jobs where I say, hey, we're gonna pay to relocate you. I didn't have 20, $30,000, right, to get up and relocate myself. So having that paid for then opened up all new doors of opportunity to me. Making enough money at my 9 to 5 jobs allowed me to pay for certifications like my PCC certification through ICF, right? So then that enabled me to fund the startup costs to become an entrepreneur. So I had expendable income to invest in paying for my website, in making sure that I had an email address for my business. It paid for me to go to conferences so that I could do business development. And all of that is connected to education. I remember when I only had a bachelor's degree, right? Only. And the jobs that I was going for that would pay just a few $1,000s more, they were shut out for me because they required that you had a master's degree or they required a certification and I could not afford it. And so I can't speak enough on how important the growth path is. I actually talked about this recently on my podcast where you have to be intentional about matching experience with education, with training and certifications throughout your career. And so, if I could espouse anything to the women on the call and all the amazing women who will see this recording, it is you must plan your career. And that is where coaching and mentorship can be so helpful because I wrote out a 5 year career plan in 2012 that is still producing fruit in my life and my career to this day. And I was honest about what did I lack, What do I kind of know how to do? What do I do really well? What are job titles that are related to my skill sets? What certifications do I need? What degrees did I need? And because I got that clarity of mind, even when I found accidental opportunities that I wasn't looking for, I could assess whether or not that opportunity was a fit because I already had a general idea of where I wanted to go. I could find the right mentors, the right sponsors. I could find the right investments to make that are now benefiting me. And so, again, that intersection of coaching, mentorship, and education cannot be dismissed because as women, one alone will not get it. Education alone is not going to get it. Coaching alone is not going to do it. Mentorship alone is not going to do it. You need your own special ratio of all three together to get your career where it needs to be continuously. You always have to have your foot on the gas. And I hope that you all are being intentional about that step by step. Do not, last thing I'll say with this, do not be dissuaded by all of the noise around you. Because when I made that career plan in 2012, we were just beginning to come out of the Great Recession, right? So it wasn't that the economy was so great and I saw this opportunity. It was actually quite the opposite. And I knew that I would never be able to find my own path if I was not intentional about at least having a general direction of where I wanted to go. And all of the external influence is cool. That's going to do what it's going to do, right? That's going to be there always. But you have to have some power within yourself to have a path plotted out so that you can sort through all of the noise that's going to come at you.
Yeah. How do you connect that to ethical leadership, Kylan?
Yeah, it's so interesting because ethical leadership is based in the idea that you have an ethical compass to begin with. I was having a conversation because this is a business development conference that I'm here for. And I was having a conversation with a potential partner yesterday. They are in a local government. And I said, they were asking about my pricing. And I said, no, my price is my price, no matter if I'm working with this type of organization or this type of organization, because my ethical compass will not allow me to price gouge. That's not how I show up. And they were like, wow, because of course the currency conversion is different here. And I was like, no, I'm not going to charge a whole bunch of extra money just because I could down here. That doesn't make any sense. And it made me realize that because I'm so clear on my ethics, I can be a better entrepreneur. I can be a better coach. Now, here's where education plays into that. And this is similar to what Dr. Elena said and what you have said, Jaya. Because I have my credentials in order, I don't feel the need to gouge people. So because I know I've stacked my credentials appropriately to be in every room I'm in, I don't have to be a snake in business. I don't have to steal from people or cheat people. It's unnecessary. I would have the credentials that I've lined up can allow me to thrive in, I kid y'all not, like 5 different industries. And that's not me being arrogant, that's me being honest. Dr. Elena, I'm sure you could say the same thing. If you stopped coaching today, you could go right back to practicing dentistry, right? You could go right back to doing all of these other amazing things. You could be a professor. And so when you stack your credentials appropriately and you get the right experience, you don't have to mistreat people. You don't have to behave unethically because you always have options available to you. You always have opportunities available to you. And so you can operate ethically. You can be giving. You can be nurturing. You can have free mentoring relationships. Everything doesn't have to be, tit for tat or counting the cost. Sometimes you can be philanthropic, right? It opens up so many more opportunities to you, which then creates a deeper network. So again, the education piece is not just so you can get opportunities, it's also so that you can appropriately create a fair and clear ethical compass.
Hmm. Interesting. Elena, tell us from your experience, how do you answer this question?
I am inspired by Kyla. Let me take what she said, Colin, and add something. Uh, I had a teacher and a great friend called Jim Selman. I don't know if you met him. He died just some months ago. When I was trained by him, and I'm talking about the 90s, 1990, 1992, 1993, coaching was not known in this world. And I didn't know how to explain clearly what coaching was to possible clients and how to charge, how to get money from there. So he told me this: go and have a conversation for free and tell them that it's going to be for free if they give you the opportunity after that conversation to have a conversation about what happened with the conversation, what was the future created during the conversation, and then ask them what's the difference created, what future they are seeing now, and how worth it is that future for them. And you will have there the price that you can charge, because the price is the way of being visible of the value that you created for that person. So price and value are aligned. Yes? So I thank you. I thank him for that, because really I saw doing that exercise how I was creating more value for people. Every time I was creating more value. And that allowed me to also be honest and say, I know that I will create value for you. Well, with my intervention, you probably can create for yourself a future that you didn't imagine until now. We are working with possibilities. And the second thing is that wealth is not a thing, it's a way of being, it's creating possibility, it's seeing possibilities. You told me if I leave coaching, I am always thinking I can cook, I can go to the university and be a professor again. I don't know. I have a lot of ideas. It's my way of being the one that brings wealth, brings money. It's not that I need to do something special to bring money. It's the self who inspires your action. It's your way of being. It's your way you are observing the world to see possibilities. is I think that that's so important. Possibilities is not also a thing. It's a way of looking at the world. It's a way of relating to the world. So if we look at the world as a possibility, we will always see something where we can make a difference. And that will make the difference too.
Yeah.
So
Go ahead. Go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead.
no.
No, I'm stuck at the statement you said that I should know that I'll create value versus waiting for others to validate whether did I create value for you. And that's a huge difference, which brings the confidence of saying, it's okay if today I don't have coaching work, I'll do something else because I'm good at creating value and I can still earn money from so many other sources. And that brings the work to you because you are so much valuing your own self as to who you are. That's very interesting. Let's see what Harlina has to say about this question. Srishti? Education coupled with coaching fuels story of triumph, struggles and trumps again. Enable them to step into visible and value-driven leadership roles without fear. Exactly what we were talking about. That I think fear keeps us small. And knowing that I will create value irrespective of whom am I sitting with is a very different expression versus saying, I'm not sure if I can create value for so and so. That's really not the conversation at all. So, how do you flip the conversation towards your own self? Thank you, Srishti. Let's go to our next question around what's the role do you think mentorship and career development in career development coaching plays in helping educated women transition into senior leadership positions with coaching profession? What would you like to say? Elena, maybe start with you.
Well, I already named one of my teachers. First thing I want to say that we need gratitude and acknowledgement to our teachers. That creates roots. When you think or you say that you did it absolutely alone and everything is alone, you don't have roots. You will fall very easily. So without models, it's hard to imagine yourself in certain places. So that's why mentoring and coaching are just technical supports, but they are mirrors. A mentor says, it's possible, and I will walk with you. A coach says, what part of you is already ready to take this place? So both are essentials. And when they are made available to other women, they create a spiral staircase, not only upwards, but inward too. So I think that is the way we can make a difference. Being humble, ready to learn. We always have space to learn, always.
Interesting. Gratitude is like a root, and how,
Yes,
it needs to be connected to the deeper layers of us rather than saying I did it alone, because the more and more you pass on what you have, you multiply that. And how can you become an example of it? What?
yes. First of all, gratitude is a kind of relationship. First, it's for free. Gratitude never creates a debt, creates acknowledgement.
Mm,
I acknowledge that I learned from the other one, and I am thankful for that.
mm,
That's the only debt. There's no debt in gratitude.
mm,
It's acknowledgement. And that's a kind of relationship that bonds you with the other person.
mm,
What I admire from your culture, the Oriental culture, is that you are always remembering what is the kind of relationship with this other person. You create rituals for that. And that ritual reminds you of the way of being with that person.
mm.
Hmm? Thank you.
Thank you. Kylan, what do you have to say about the role of
You know,
mentorship?
yes, it's interesting. I'm over here having a religious experience to Dr. Elena's words. I'm so grateful for this conversation this morning. I completely agree around gratitude, and to take that a step further, asking how can you provide mutual benefit. So one of the main questions I try to ask people when I have conversations with them, no matter how short, how long, is how can I support you? And then wait for an answer. And then look for ways that I can provide that support, right? And those small interactions create a web. I call it an ecosystem. When you think of ecosystem, sometimes you're feeding others, sometimes others are feeding you. But the point is that we continue to be able to thrive as a group. And for so many people, that idea of gratitude, of mutual benefit, has become so lost because people have a scarcity mindset. So if I tell you thank you, or if I ask, how can I help you and you need something from me, we treat it like a zero sum game. So if I thank you, then that means I'm not thanking myself. Or if I help you, that means there's less help for me. And that's not true. We don't know what all is available to us because all humans are complex. So I don't know who or what Dr. Elena knows, but who knows the fact that we are on this panel brought together by you. We may not have ever met each other before, right? But because Jaya, you've brought us together, we might end up keeping in touch. We could share information that changes both of our lives, right? Full disclosure, Jaya was my mentor coach. So ironically, we're talking about professional development, and everybody was like, "Oh, it's easy." Again, we talking about ethical compass. Just go find somebody in the States for the cheapest cost, and then you could do this. And I said, no, I purposely want to find someone who has a different cultural identity than me, preferably lives in a different place, because I know how coaching works in my community, right? I understand that rhythm. I've lived in my community. I'm there every day. I want to see what coaching looks like other places because that's how I grow and stretch my skills. And you challenged me a lot. I mean, it was not easy at all. It was like a tough, tough process, but I am a better coach today because of that. I'm a better mentor coach than I would have been to my own clients than if I hadn't had the experience of being coached by you. And so, again, gratitude, mutual benefit. And the final point I'll make with that is we need to reframe who we think can be a mentor. We need to reframe who we think can develop us. One of the most terrifying things of how professional development has evolved over the years is when people give themselves titles instead of focusing on skills and value add. I don't care what your title is, you have something to teach me. I have learned more about office and professional diplomacy from executive assistants than I ever have from executives because the executive assistants will say, hey, when you go to that person, they have to have 5 to 10 minutes of small talk before you get to the business. They are a quick decision maker. They don't need all that data. I see you got the spreadsheets, the whatever. They don't care about that. They want to know, what's going on with you. They want to like you, this and that. And so do that first. And it would be a quick conversation off to the side. Sometimes they would tell me, hey, Thursdays are a bad day for that person. Their kid has soccer games on Wednesday nights. Their kid's not that great. So when they come in on Thursday, they're usually in a bad mood. Don't try to have a conversation with them. And so executive assistants, janitors, even interns, I learned things from my staff. I learned things from retirees. I make it a point to have conversations with people who have retired in my industry. I mean, people have value. People inherently, humans have value. They have something to teach us, they have something to offer us. They can grow us if we are open. And so, again, being open in our definition of what a mentor can be, of what a developer can be, that's going to be the game changer because you can learn and grow from anyone if you're open. Oh, you're on mute, Jaya.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that perspective. So I'm going to ask you a different question around culture now. We all are representing a different culture here. How is coaching or women coaches represented in your corner? What are some of the narratives they um, stand or not stand? What is coming in their way as women coaches? Uh, let's see if culture makes it different or same. What is happening there? Anyone can start. Maybe Ellen, you want to start?
I
I
think,
think,
Coach,
oh, go ahead, Dr. Elena.
come on, Colleen, Colleen, please, come on.
It's interesting. One of the biggest barriers for women, honestly, in professional coaching is cost. Obviously, we all know because we all have ICF credentials, it is not cheap. It is, a time consuming process like any other educational experience. And I think it ends up being prohibitive for a lot of women. Um, especially for women who might be single parents or they are carrying, the breadwinning responsibilities for the family. They just can't carve out that amount to be able to invest in either time or money. And so I think that that's one of the things that has been one of, like I said, the biggest barriers as I've talked to people. And then the other barrier is that technically, again, this goes back to that job title versus skill. Coaching has no barriers to entry to enter the market. I could wake up tomorrow and say that I'm a coach. Now, whether or not I'm good at it, I know how to do it. I have the right ethical mindset to do it, that's a toss up. But I could call myself that. And so for a lot of people, they're like, well, why should I invest in education? Why should I invest in credentialing? Why should I invest in mentor and, gaining a mentor? I'm a coach because I understand this one topic. And what I hope to see more from the women who are already coaches, especially who are veteran coaches, who are credentialed, who pursue education and coaching, I hope that we can elevate the conversation around the need for coaching being a profession. Like, I would never go be a doctor without going to medical school, right? Like, that would sound silly. And I can't even legally practice medicine without going to school. I can't be a lawyer. I might read legal papers, but I'm not an attorney until I go to law school, in the states, pass the bar, all those things. And so, because the coaching profession has marketed itself at times as being low stakes as far as barriers to entry, that I think is holding us back and it is causing confusion for women. And it stops us from doing appropriate career planning to have a sustainable career in coaching.
Thank you. I have a follow-up question I'll ask once I hear Elena's point of view on this.
I have so many things to say about this. Let me get in order my mind. First of all, I am sure coaching is going to be transformed in a culture of being in this world. Because coaching has to do with relationship. What happens with you when you are in a space where you feel free, you feel trusted, you feel that you can trust, that you can thrive, that there is one that is committed to you and believes that you can do whatever you want, that looks at you with eyes that say, I admire you. You are bigger than what you see or what you believe you are. So that's something that will change education, will change politics. When you think in a lot of countries where women are told you cannot be in this world without me. You need me to defend your rights. You need me to give you money to support your kids. Please give me work. Please give me education, and I will make it happen. Let me feel proud of myself. I don't want to beg in this world because that's at the end creates hate. Hate because I cannot be like you. I cannot be as powerful as you are. So that's one difference that coaching brings to this game. The second thing, coaching is not only a technique. We are wrong there. Because the only thing that we can offer to the other ones, one is relationship, but the other one is the kind of world that you relate to. When you have a very small world, your questions are very small. So you cannot stop widening your world. If you want to work more and more. So, for example, I always ask myself the question, why the CEO of Google is not calling me? Well, probably because the size of my world is not enough for the world that person is seeing already now. Another thing that we have to fight with, or at least be conscious of, is these big companies that made a great difference and made coaching available for everybody. No, they are great, but they destroyed price.
Mm.
And we are thinking in charging for half an hour of our lives or 45 minutes of our lives. Why don't we think that we can charge for the difference we make in the lives of others? And we will bring more value and we will feel more comfortable with our work
Mm.
and with ourselves. What happens if we charge for the value we create
Mm.
and not for half an hour of our lives or an hour of our lives? Please, 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 that's something paradigmatic that with that we can make a very big difference in respect. Respect for us and respect for the other ones.
Yeah, we teach others how to treat us, right? Great. Let's see what Herlina has to say about
But
this. And then I have a
hey,
last
I'm
question.
sorry. Can I make a quick note with what Dr. Elena
Yeah.
just said? I'm so happy that she talked about that because one of the first questions that folks, and I'm sure you all experience this too, come for mentorship is to say, well, how much should I charge? What offer should I ask? And I always have to back them up and say, no, 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 no. What is the change that you are seeking to help folks make in their lives? So most of my packages, I mean, I have like a 15-minute coaching call, a 45-minute coaching call, but I rarely even publicize that one. And folks rarely ask for it. What they ask for is, I want to get from here to here. And I say, okay, great. Usually that takes about 3 months. And they'll say, okay, let's do it. And then later, sometimes weeks later, they'll say, oh, how many sessions do we have? And I'm like, I don't know. I think maybe six, sometimes eight. It depends on what's going on. And folks have, when I first talked about wanting to have that type of setup, folks were like, that's silly. You can't. And I was like, no, the goal is to make progress. Some people will make that same progress in 4 sessions, in 4 weeks. Some people, it might take 3 months, but they're working toward it. They're moving toward a goal. And so I love that Dr. Elena just keeps focusing on that value because people are drawn to value. We live in a count the cost world. Everything is penny pinching and this 5 minutes, 30 seconds. No, we don't give time for deep thinking, deep connection, deep reflection, deep planning. And so, if you are able to literally bring depth to people, you will never have to worry about how much people are willing to pay, how whether or not you'll get clients, whether or not people will be interested in the work that you do in any profession, because value is what is missing in the world. Connection, depth, gratitude, um, mutual benefit. Those are the things that we are experiencing a complete lack of in the world. And if you bring that, you've written your ticket in any career field.
Interesting. So the connected and the last question from my side is, what are some of the niches women can tap into, given that there are so many gifts?
I don't think there is a limit. We
Really?
can be in any profession. I mean, I want to see women in coaching, in organizational psychology, in medicine, in law, in politics, in education. I want to see women everywhere because the more we see people in something, the less we think people should not be there. If you walk into any space and are surprised that a particular person is doing a thing, that's an indictment on that industry. I should not be surprised to see women in manufacturing, in construction, in law, in medicine, just like I wouldn't be surprised to see a man there, right? Just like I shouldn't be surprised to see male teachers. So there's a conversation in the United States around like, how do we get more men to be teachers? Like, what's going on there? Especially for little boys, they need to see men teaching them. There's the social element there. We should not be surprised to see any type of person doing any type of thing. And again, as we continue to elevate the conversation as coaches, we're helping people, as Dr. Elena said, see the future of what is possible regardless of what they have seen. It's based off of what value do you want to add to the world? Okay, now let's plan for that.
Okay, let me hear Dr. Elena.
Well, I will build on what Callan said. Any niche where stories have been made invisible.
Hmm.
We can work on women in science, single mothers, rural entrepreneurs, women in life transitions, heirs of family businesses, neurodivergent women. Sometimes the niche isn't out there, it's in our own story. Where did you have to fight to be heard?
Hmm.
There, someone else is waiting for your voice. So it's a lot of opportunities.
So what
Can
I'm also
you create
hearing,
them?
so basically niche is not only about what's the opportunity outside, but what's your story inside and how do you connect to that. And I love the thing that you said where stories are, people are waiting for your voice to tell their story. How amazing is that? Interesting, interesting. Well, we can go on and on this conversation. Let me see if Harlina has to say something about this particular question about niche. Thank you for doing this, Srishti. Emerging technologies and AI have created a level playing field for everyone who chooses to thrive through times today. Hence, anything and everything, wow, quite consistent between all of you, is up for grab. Interesting. So it's, I think if there is any, thank you for sharing, Srishti. If there is any barrier that is within us about tapping any niche. Great. I also want to give an opportunity to our audience to see if they have a unique question which I did not ask and they need an answer to. Let's just give a few minutes to see if something comes on chat. And I'm cognizant that Kylan has to leave. So we'll just quickly check if there is a question here. But it's an interesting question, interesting conversation that can go on for some more time, talking about stories, how we have overcome some of the barriers in our coaching experiences, and in spite of how much differentiation exists outside, the strength that you carry to make the change in others makes it more different. So I see a question here from Ashi saying it's often highlighted women are intuitive naturally, majority are. How can this be best utilized in coaching as a coach? I
You
can
know,
please.
it's interesting because intuition is one of like the foundational principles of coaching, right? Like, but I always have to give folks a qualifier around intuition because your intuition is often guided by your own internal strength. So here's what I mean by that. The way I expressed my intuition in my 20s is very different now that I've turned 40, right? It's sharper. If I think about my intuition back then, it was like a little whisper. Now my intuition yells because I've like developed her voice. I listen to her so she feels comfortable speaking louder, right? And so I always encourage people to develop their intuition like it's a muscle. Your intuition speaks to you with sharpness and clarity the more you give credence to her voice. And so if you constantly dismiss your intuition, even in little things, Intuition to say, oh, I should wake up at 5:30 instead of 6 o'clock. That's your intuition. If you ignore little ones like that, you're not going to hear your intuition say, ask your client this, not that. My intuition may say, you know what? Turn left here instead of turning right. Okay. That was, on my way to the grocery store. If I listen to her then, I'll hear when it says, hey, go walk into this room and find this person. And then that ends up being a premium paying client, right? So again, intuition is a muscle that you build. Um, and then also with intuition, if we think about the id, super id, and the ego, our intuition is closer to our id than it is to our super id. So intuition often speaks beyond what we've been conditioned to believe. And so this would involve you possibly with a therapist thinking about all the ways, like Dr. Elena has said, has been silenced, because that'll give you a clue into how your intuition speaks to you. What are your intuition's triggers? For some people, it's color, it's music, it's sound, right? A lot of times your intuition is going to be tied into your sensory experiences. So for me, color is a big thing. Like if I see certain colors, I'm like, hold on, what's going on there? And I'll key into that. Music helps me to sharpen my intuition. And then the very last thing I'll say about this is that your intuition also needs rest. So when you overwork, is again, it's a muscle. So when you overwork a muscle, it becomes tired and sometimes it can jam on you. And so give your intuition a rest through intellectualism. This goes back to education. So sometimes I don't need my intuition to do all the heavy lifting because I read a book on something and I could see, okay, A, B, C, D. Great. So I need to make this decision. And so, because I allow my intuition to stay in a balanced state, I listen to her. Clearly, you see, I treat her like a person. I listen to her. I give her an opportunity to rest, to recover from the times where maybe I have misused her. She remains a trusted tool in my toolkit.
Thank you, Elena. How have you
Again,
used your intuition in past?
let me build on Kalin. Uh, Something interesting is that what you need to listen to yourself is self-confidence. And that's a muscle. Self-confidence is always built on the story that you have of your past. But when you build self-confidence, if you succeeded because you achieved what you wanted, that's one thing. But when you build self-confidence because you went for it, you can say, I didn't get it, but I learned. You're stronger. And that's something that we can include in our education for our kids. I will inspire you to go for it. And I will congratulate you, not if you achieve it. I will congratulate you because you tried to make it happen. You went for it. And when you do that and you believe in yourself, you can listen to your internal voice in another way because you will believe in that voice. That voice, a lot of times, is wisdom, especially when you get older. That's wisdom too. Why don't we believe in that? Why we can listen to other ones more than ourselves?
I want to just keep listening to you.
Mm,
Both of
thank you.
you are giving so much of thoughts to, new ideas to me that I'm just enjoying this conversation. But as it happens, time is always structured and we need to get to the next meeting and Elena needs to catch some sleep early in the morning. Thank you Honestly, very, very thank you for showing up here and sharing your point of view. I'm sure the audience here have taken up, or people who are watching the video are picking up some messages for themselves. And uh, when you're becoming a women coach in the world, it really means that you're showing up for a lot of us. So how do you show up for not only for yourself, but you're representing a complete segment, which can do so much good to this world.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you so much for the answers. It's an honor.
you. Thanks for asking the question. Any other question?
Yeah, I had one in the chat.
Please.
Um,
Yes. I can't see your question. Would you like to ask it directly?
sure. Um, am I audible?
Yes.
I think my question, because I'm getting started. I'm pretty much in the early phase of my journey as a coach, and I think what I'm really looking for here is what what would be that one advice possibly that you would have given to your younger self, having seen, having grown, having come this ahead in your journey, um, something that perhaps somebody who's getting started right now can draw from.
I think maybe that coaching is as much a calling as it is a profession. So obviously we've spoken a lot today about the importance of education, training, mentorship. Yes, like that's totally valid. Oh, hi, fur baby. I love seeing the dogs and cats. But yes, your professional development is crucial, but it's also a calling, and you were drawn to coaching for a reason. And so, speaking to Dr. Atlanta's point, having confidence in that. Not everybody is drawn to coaching. Like, there are some people, I've coaching clients, they're like, girl, I could never do this. Like, there's no way, right? I don't have it in me. Um, and so, remembering that it's a calling is very important, but also remember that you own your coaching practice. So you will see people doing coaching in a particular way, and that's cool, but your coaching practice will look different. So, I know some folks, they have certain types of coaching sessions. I would never do that. I have no interest in that. That's not how I show up. I don't coach on certain days of the week because I'm like, I know me, I know my energy. Coaching on a Monday is just not gonna happen, right? Coaching on a Friday afternoon, no, I'm winding down my week. But I am empowered to own that because I own my coaching practice. I know some folks where they will do like 2 hour coaching sessions, 3 hour coaching sessions. My max is like 1 hour is pushing it. My sweet spot is like 45 minutes. So be open to learning your special sauce, your special techniques as a coach, because your practice doesn't have to look like anybody else's. And then the very last piece I'll say is that know that it's a journey. It's just like any other career. So you might start out with one particular discipline. You might start out using one particular tool. Like I have psychometric assessments I use. They've changed and evolved over the years. Sometimes I use this one, sometimes I use that one. There are people who have, different specialties. Now I do executive coaching, which is at like a certain title level and above. I used to do leadership coaching or career coaching. Some people switch from fitness coaching to nutrition coach. You don't have to stay married to one piece. You can evolve. And that evolution can be either because you have different interests or because the market has shifted. And that's the other piece. Because again, this is a business too. So if you see that you were doing fitness coaching and it's been 6 months and you're not getting clients, guess what? You might have to add on another little discipline to that and get some training in that mentorship to diversify your practice. And so again, just that agility and being nimble will be your guide for sure.
May I answer your question, Parabi, with a metaphor? I will tell you a story. It was said that some night, and it was very, very late, two cats met on a roof. One of those cats was licking his tail from one side, from the other one, and just moving the tail from one side to the other one, and up and down. And in a moment, he looked at to the other cat and said, "You know, I was told that in the tail of a cat is the possibility of happiness. Do you know that? Can you tell me where? Because I am licking it, I am moving it, and I can't find happiness." And the other cat looked at him very surprised and said, "You know, I didn't know that. But what I know is that I go where I want to go. I do what I want to do. I always thinking what I need to go for, what it means something for me. And I always found that my tail came behind me." So here's something that means don't become like the system just to survive in it. Don't trade your authenticity for belonging. Don't silence your intuition in the name of efficiency. Build alliances, not trenches. And understand that the future isn't conquered, it's conversed into being. Hope this can serve you.
Thank you. Thank you. Oh my God. I'm getting goosebumps right now. Thank you so much.
Great. I love the piece around don't trade your authenticity. Because I think we get to do that because when we start, we are vulnerable and we don't know our power at that time. And we are always trying to fit in and saying, am I good enough? But that's really not the question. You are already good enough. You just need to go with full power and say, I can help you. With that, thank you so much for your time once again and lovely conversation. Thank you for your presence and all that you have shared with us. Thank you.
Thank you all so much.
Thank you, Kylie. Thank you, Dr. Elena. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you, Jaya.
Thank you.